Check this out, because I've been hearing so much hullabaloo and howdy do about it.
Hullabaloo and howdy do.
And I know by a lot of our contemporaries and peers, I did a bad by even watching this. But I watched an episode of My Adventures with Superman.
If I do it, I get a weapon. I do it.
I can see how it could easily be crap, but I could also see how this could be people labeling something as crap, and then you watch it and it's not actually crap. And I gotta tell y'all, I'm only one episode in, but the show's really not that bad.
Just slapping me in the face with the proverbial balls of disappointment.
Don't get me wrong, there is goofiness that goes on with this show. First of all, I understand some people were complaining about the art style because it's all weebed out and everything. But I mean, I'm already a weeb and I've been one my whole life, so that don't really bother me. Another thing I know people had a big problem with, Lois's design, because Lois, she's definitely more firmly on the tomboy train this time because she got the short hairs. She's not super curvy. I understand that from the aspect of her being a very iconic character. Even if the change itself isn't bad, sometimes the fact that there is a change is enough to set people off. So I do understand that. It personally did not bother me, but I can see how some people would be like, hey, that's not my Lois Lane. Speaking of, that's not my insert character here. Yep. They did it again. Perry White is black again. Jimmy is also black. What bothers me about Jimmy is less to do with him being race swapped and more of the fact that now, because he's race swapped, what they also did with his character is one of my most hated tropes. Hyper energy, like yanked around by Lois and stuff. So it definitely does give me spineless black man vibes.
No, sir, I don't like it.
Like, okay, y'all race swapped him just to make him one of like the worst stereotypes for black people ever. Not unlike how they did for all the characters in Velma, but that's beside the point. That like button right now is plotting against you. All you gotta do to ensure that you have a dope ass weekend is smack it. If you smack that like button, it won't conspire against you and you'll have the best weekend you can possibly have. So go ahead and smack it. Also, since we're talking about all the potential woke stuff, there are definitely some instances of like the women characters often being like super strong type A. The leader of the bad guys in this episode is super ultra hard ass. Lois, I'd say actually the way she was characterized wasn't too far off base from what we usually get with Lois, because Lois is already a very headstrong, driven person. She's really not a meek little damsel. Go watch Superman and Lois, which is probably the best piece of Superman media we've gotten in almost a decade, if not more. That Lois ain't nowhere near timid, but what you like is what you like. That's not a complaint. I think if we're gonna say one version is good and one version is bad, I think that throwing this Lois away because she has short hair and isn't super curvy when everything else about her is on point is kind of weird. Just a little bit, just a touch weird. It's a touch of the weirdness. But then they also do have some times where like you have Jimmy, who's just like a little kid on sugar being yanked around all the time, and then the main bad couple, sort of, or the main bad duo, the dude is like some beefed up bulky dude, but he's like super cowardly and like second guessing everything, and then the woman is like a fraction of his size. And it'd be one thing if they had like a Nappa Vegeta relationship where he was more like the quote unquote dumb muscle, but he was still a person. This guy literally just exists to get bossed around by her. A little annoying, it just seems weird. But this Clark, I cannot find anything wrong with. He woke up, he's on fire. He's like, I'm gonna have a regular day at work, no powers, and then immediately, like within a second, he goes and saves somebody. It's just a cat stuck in a tree, but he diverts himself from his own plan of normalcy to go be a superhero. And the introduction shows him getting his powers for the first time. And this is some of the most Superman shit I've ever seen in my life. This couple is about to run in a pothole. She almost crashes into this tree. And Clark like activates his super speed for what I think is the first time. Just stops the car. And then he was trying to get a kite out of a tree, his kite, I think. And then that's when he develops flight to get the kite out the tree. So it's like, it's very much in character. overall, because the focus of the show is more on Clark being, at least the episode I watched, was more about Clark being Clark Kent. He actually hasn't even developed the Superman persona yet. But then there are also parts where like Lois does something that ain't all on the up and up and he calls her on it. He doesn't just get bossed around by her. When he does decide to do some Supermaning, it's some very Superman ass shit. I really don't have any complaints with Clark yet. Now, I did mention that there's scenes making the rounds on all the social medias, and one of them is the Superman or the Sailor Superman or Super Sailor Moon, whatever you want to call it. But it's a transformation sequence where he puts on the outfit, and it's like a magical girl transformation sequence. Looking at it completely out of context, it doesn't do anything for me. But in the context of the whole episode, it might be fine. That may be the only bad thing about that episode. But yeah, so far, I don't hate the show. Its sins aren't nearly as egregious as a lot of people make them out to be. It could get better. It could get phenomenally worse. And because I have no emotional connection to this show's success or failure, that means that whatever happens next, I'm gonna give you my honest opinion about it.
And that's all I have to say about that.